Okay. I think I will start the episode right now. So I will do a brief introduction and then I will go straight into the guest. So I hope everyone is ready.
Yep.
Okay. In three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Vet Insight Podcast, number one veterinary podcast in Southeast Asia. This is episode number 2. Together with me is Dr. Ilyas Hanafi. I'm your veterinarian today. I will be hosting this second episode today with our very renowned guests. And not to forget, today is a very special day. Today is a very special episode because we are celebrating World Veterinary Day 2024. Shout out to all veterinarians out there in the whole world, in Asia, Europe, America, Africa, and all around the countries. Please keep hustling, keep on the spirit in treating animals, and give your best to treat the animals and also bring joy to the human. Okay, not to waste any time, together with me we have 3 renowned veterinarians. The first one is Dr. Miguel Maita. Let's have an applause to Dr. Miguel Maita from Singapore, Dr. Giana Gomes, and also Dr. Shane Ryan. So how is everyone today? Is everyone doing good?
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I'm very glad that I can meet you all, although not in person, online, but I'm very glad today we can share a lot of thoughts, a lot of knowledge, a lot of point of views that we can spread out to all veterinarians, especially for the guests of Singapore Vet Show 2024. Shall we start with Dr. Shane? How are you, Dr. Shane? Are you doing good today?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. I'm busy, but otherwise I'm good. Yeah,
Okay, Dr. Shane, I've read through some of your backgrounds, and then you are actually
correct.
from Australia, is it?
I'm from Australia. I've been in Singapore most of
And
my
how
career. I've been here nearly 40 years now.
I see. From the first point you started to become a vet, what drives you? Why do you want to become a vet?
Unlike a lot of people I've met, I had no great plans on anything when I finished school. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I went to school in Melbourne in Victoria. And what I ended up starting to do was medicine in the university there. But my family moved to Queensland while at the end of my school year. So they, when they moved up there, I had the opportunity to do veterinary science in Queensland. So I simply did it just so I could be with my family. And I was just fortunate it was a profession and a career path that I chose that I absolutely loved. I don't think I would have liked being a doctor, to be honest. Yeah, purely accidental.
So that's
Just
why
one
you
of those things. Yeah.
become a vet today. Most of people like that. But let's see how what other veterinarians have their experience. For Dr. Miguel, like we are from the
Yes.
same region, Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Yeah. I was.
We might not know what vet is. So how do you come across and become a vet?
It's a because of my first dog that I had experience with. My first dog got by the cobra snake, the very easy to find in the
Yeah.
tropical country. And yeah, my parents because he is my best friend and he is my mental support when I got bullied in school. So he is the number one of me, and I only have him at that time when I was a student. So at that time, I didn't have the knowledge how to provide the first aid to save my life, my dog life. So and at that time, he died in my arms. So that is very. I cried like 5 days because I lost only one of my friends at that time. And then I tell myself that every dog that I will have, I will take care of them, very best take care of them, and I will always update my knowledge to protect my dog. So at that time, I decided that I will become the veterinarian, and I will become the veterinarian that never stop learning or never stop update my knowledge and skill to provide the best take care of the every patient. So the another owner will not have the heart broken same as me at that time. So
Exactly.
that's why I become the veterinarian.
That's a very nice story. For Dr. Giana, you have heard Dr. Shane accidentally become a vet. I mean, no offense, like, accidentally become a vet. Dr. Miguel is because of her pets. For
Yeah.
you, and then I saw your background. You are from Brazil. Is it a very, very common job there in Brazil to become a vet?
Yes, we have a lot of vets there for sure. We love animals. I think the South America is very strong on this connection with animals because probably from native the natives, indigenous people, and this mix with Europeans. So it's animals and environment are very strong. But I live in Australia also for a long time, and I know there is the same. So my reason to becoming a vet has been, I think, the most common one, probably, like always love animals since a kid and always want to become a vet. My family want me to be a doctor, no human doctor, but then I decided. But my trajectory in the profession was very different from what I planned as a kid. So probably I'll be sharing a bit more when we go into other questions. So but was
Ex-
mainly the love by animals. Yeah.
Exactly, Dr. Giana. So it's very beautiful insight how people become vets. So I hope someone, if all of our listeners, for those who want to become a vet and listening to our story here, I hope you are inspired to become a vet. Let's go back to Dr. Shane Ryan, shall we? Dr. Shane, you were the ex-president of WSAVA. You were the ex-president for FAVA. And also you have been through a lot of visiting professors in some universities in Vietnam and whatnot. How do you when you practice from Australia and then that shift to Southeast Asia, is there any difference
Well,
in
I
the
came from
practice
Australia to
and what
Singapore,
is the
and
challenges that you face in
that
this
was not such
specific
a
region?
big shift, to be honest, because Singapore was a relatively affluent area. I didn't have any language difficulties. The pet ownership attitude back in the 80s was similar to what I was used to in Australia. But when I was starting to deal more with people in other parts of Southeast Asia, I found that attitudes weren't equal, and that was partly because of socioeconomics, it was partly because of education, and it was partly because of probably that the young vets there weren't getting the training that they needed, and the standard of veterinary education wasn't so high back then. And a lot of people looked at people like ourselves from Singapore as some sort of specialists or experts, which we weren't. We were just reasonably well educated. And we were going to these places and people were looking to us to advise them on this. Now, fortunately, that has changed a lot. And in Southeast Asia, the level of standard of veterinary education is far, far better than it was. In fact, it's in most countries on first world basis. And so they don't need old dinosaurs like me wandering around telling them what to do. They have very good academic staff these days. So I found it not that difficult, and I was sort of eased into it. And it wasn't such a challenge for me, but it was very, very interesting because I saw situations and animals that I'd never seen before, and I would never have encountered if I'd stayed only in Australia.
Back then, when you don't have challenge from Australia to Singapore because you say it's quite the same.
Yeah, well,
But
I
when
was a
you
visiting
become a
professor in
visiting professor
Cambodia actually, rather
in
than Vietnam.
Vietnam,
And Vietnam was
how do
more
you
just
overcome the challenge? Because they have language
that
barrier
was
and then
difficult because
socio-economic, like you
most of the
say.
students there didn't speak English. They spoke Khmer.
Come on, sorry, yeah.
And so I had somebody with me who was translating for me as I go. And I tend to be a bit impatient when I start speaking, and I just keep speaking and speaking and speaking.
Yeah.
I don't stop, and the translator has to try to catch up with me. So it can be a bit of a challenge. And one thing I had to learn was not to assume anything with the student's knowledge. Sometimes you would expect them to know something and they didn't. Sometimes you expect them not to know something and they were very advanced. So you had to sort of apprise yourself of their actual background. And so I took a little bit of background work to make sure that you understood where they were. And then it wasn't so hard. Then you could move on from there. But one thing I found that all the students, anywhere that I went, all were very eager to learn, very keen to learn. And so that made teaching very, very simple.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I like that point. As a professor, I mean, like, I really appreciate the eagerness to teach students, regardless the barrier that you have, you overcome, and then you inspire everyone, especially in the region that have challenges like we said before. For Dr. Miguel, it's different. The barrier is basically we have the barrier, we have the
Yeah.
language barrier. We cannot speak
Yeah.
English very
Yeah.
well. We have culture differences. So when you move from Thailand to Canada, that is a very big shift. And how do you overcome
Yes.
that?
As what I had to say, like Canadian people, very nice, very gentle and friendly. And because I'm going to University of Montreal, so normally we use French combined with the English, and my pronunciation is very different. So we try to communication. So I think the language is the not my barrier anymore, because even my pronunciation still not very good, but I try to understand every knowledge, every people that speak with me. Canada, we have a lot of cultural. We have a lot of people from all around the world. Brazil is the one of my friend, and we have from the Chinese, the China. We have from the Bangladesh, and some of them are from the African and French, the Europe people. So we combine together, and then we communicate together. So that's why Canada is the best for everyone that not criticize the people just only by language or pronunciation, but we try to understand each other. But the challenge one that we found different between the veterinarian in Canada and veterinarian in Thailand and Singapore is in Thailand and in Canada. We are the tropical country, so we have a lot of the zoonotic disease. So this one is a little different from the Canada. And we also in Asia, in this region, we have very high population. High population means we have high of the people who gonna be the ownership of the dog and cat and another exotic one. So that one is the one of the challenge for the veterinarian in Asia, in this region. So, and technology and the knowledge also. When I was in Canada, I learned the new technology every day. They have the new innovation knowledge. They have a publication to read like every day.
Mhm.
So I think the limitation for the education, limitation for the resource is the one of the challenge in this region.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. So I think we need a lot more to work, especially in our region, but we are heading there, especially Indonesia,
Sure.
Thailand, Malaysia. We are heading there towards revolving this veterinary industry. Okay, let's not forget Dr. Giana. I am really interested in your veterinary path because you are from Brazil and then you moved to Australia and then you are practicing aquaculture, which aquatic medicine, which is very rare. I mean, Dr. Shane is practicing small animal. Dr. Miguel is practicing small animal. I'm in livestock industry. You are in livestock industry. Definitely, there's a lot of challenges. Can you tell me when you work first as an aquatic veterinarian, what is the challenges that you have to face and how do you overcome?
Yeah, a lot of challenge there for sure. I think the first one is, especially when I graduated, there was not much within the course that we learn about aquatic animals, very little. I think in countries that had more the salmon industry 20 years ago, they still learn a bit more, like Canada probably, and other countries where there is the salmon industry, probably there are some things, but where I graduated for sure not. And my plan was actually to work with livestock. So I did all my training in vitro fertilization of cattle and all those things. But by chance, when I graduated, I needed a job. And the first job that came up was in the shrimp hatchery in Brazil. Brazil was very strong at that point, still is, but not as it was before in shrimp production, like Indonesia, Vietnam. And then they needed a vet, and I had no idea about shrimp, but they hired me. And then I learned on the job, and then after that I actually decided to do a master's about shrimp disease and went more into the academic and research area. But yeah, that's how I did. I had to learn on the job and on myself, studying and learning as we go, because in the course by itself, and always trying to and that's something that I think students can get this idea, is like how, and that's become a path in my whole career because of the choice I did, is how can I transfer this knowledge of how we do things with dogs, cats, or whatever it is, some of this knowledge, and transfer to this other industry that's not so well known and developed in this area. So there's a lot of transferable skills that can be used, but yeah, a lot of your own dedication is study on your own, I guess.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Giana. I really, because shrimp industry I've never known shrimp industry in Brazil is the top one. But yeah, because becoming an aquatic veterinarian is very rare and you made it. And later we will go on what are you doing right now because I'm very interested in that story. Let's go back to Dr. Shane.
Yeah.
Dr. Shane, you were the president. Like you are the man. You are the man, like before the as in W Sava. So, is there any specific issues that you face? Because you basically in the upper
I'm
management,
not
so you are
quite sure
seeing the
exactly
whole
what you mean. I
view
mean,
on the upside. So, is
globally,
there any
the
specific
veterinary
issues
profession
that
is
you
not
have?
homogenous at all.
Your
It's very,
specific
very different.
your
And
particular
that's
way
partly
you approach
because of
issue, and if you don't mind,
socioeconomic
can you tell
realities, it's
your
partly
stories?
because of access to therapeutics, it's partly because of education, but it's often simply a cultural aspect. So, for example, I was talking about Cambodia earlier, and you were talking how myself and Dr. Miguel are small animal veterinarians. There's been a general move in the West towards small animal practice, but you go to Cambodia, everybody who was in the veterinary school wanted to go back to the village and treat the livestock and all this sort of stuff. So it was a very different mindset than I was used to in many other countries. So that's the sort of variation you get. So not one size fits all. And I think one thing that I have probably been guilty of, and many veterinarians who have been educated, perhaps if you would call it first world countries, of being a little bit patronizing, going somewhere and say, this is how we do it, so this is how you should do it. And then you start to learn that that's not the way it's going to work. And you've got to respect other people's points of view. You've got to respect and come to understand people's perceptions. And then if you work with them rather than trying to work over the top of them, you can get things done. No, well, you can tell people, it's like if somebody tells you to do something because it's the right thing to do, if you're a kid, there's a good chance you'll do exactly the opposite because that's just what
I like
kids
that
do.
point. Working
And
with them
it's
rather
very
than
much the
working
same. If
over
you
them.
tell
But at the
somebody
same
to do
time,
something because
you know what
not
is
because
right,
of what
you know,
I'm going to
but you,
give you
I
the
mean, like,
information
you
to
cannot
listen to, just
change.
simply because I say it, I would not expect them to follow that. I would think that would just be insulting to those people. So you need to explain it to them. So this is how we do it, and this is the reason why we think it's the best. However, you may have another way or another approach, and we'd be very interested to find out what your approach is, and maybe we can somehow find something to help each other amalgamate the processes.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love that because you know every different region have different culture, and you cannot like emphasize what is really. I know like Dr. Shen said, he know what is right, but you cannot work over them. You have to work with them so that we can work in tandem and reach our goals together. Thank you, Dr. Shane. For Dr. Miguel, is there any specific issues that you face? And then your unit. Can you hear me?
The unique, yeah, yes.
Okay. You have any
The
specific issues and any specific approach that you did to overcome the problem, especially in Thailand region, because you went to Canada, and
mm,
then what is your hope?
mm, um, could you repeat your question again? I mean,
Oh, sorry. I mean, I rephrase back my question. You went to
okay,
Canada, and then
yes.
basically in this region we have our own problem. So, is there any
Mm.
specific problem that you want to address, and what is your approach? What is your goal?
Okay. So in Canada and in Thailand and Singapore, Canada we very had the point. I learned how to doing the preventive medicine, not just only the parasite prevention or vaccination. We use the technology for preventive to detect the disease earlier in their life. We have preventive rehabilitation to example for the patella luxation. If we found the grade 1 or the low grade, we can use the rehabilitation for prevent for progression of the disease. So that one I'm very impressed when I learning in Canada. So I would like to bring that main preventive is better than cure into this region to
I see.
tell
Yeah.
the owner and tell the author veterinarian friend in the Asia that we should to focus on the preventive is better than cure, because if we can prevent the disease from happening and we can manage using the rehabilitation, it can prevent the disease from going to the surgery or going to another medication that we have to use. So that one is the unique one that I learned from Canada, I would like to bring it to our Asia, our region.
I see. That's a good intention. Dr.
Mm.
Giana, you are right now a compassion fatigue professional and also RTT therapist. So is
Yes.
that a problem that you see in Southeast Asia region or in the whole world? And
Yeah.
why do you choose this approach at this point of your career?
So, yeah, quite interesting story, right? So, I have been a veterinarian and researcher, mainly academic, and I live in Brazil, Australia, here in Hong Kong. And here in Hong Kong, here in Singapore and Hong Kong, I used to teach in the university as well, right? But during this, and I like my career, I'm very proud of what I achieved, a lot of different things. But I got to a point that I was lacking, like, what's the purpose, what I'm doing, right? And I was suffering from burnout as well. I had experienced compassion fatigue. And I think even in the vet school, if now I remember, I already had experienced compassion fatigue, but at that time we didn't have the name for it. Nobody talk about, right? And there's many reasons for the things we experience in the vet school and in the profession. And then I decided that I want to quit. So I did a training to become an RTT therapist. And when I decided to quit my job last year as a researcher here in Singapore, I said, how I'm going to put all together from my passion for animals, the profession, and my experience. And that's why I decided to go in this area of helping people who work with animals, veterinarians, vet nurse, and so on, because it is an issue globally, right? Burnout, compassion fatigue, high rates of suicides among professionals in the US and in Australia. That's very, there's statistics out there. I believe Canada, there's a lot of things there as well. Are topics that we don't talk about, right? We are not prepared as vets when we enter the profession in the vet school. The mental challenge that you face, we are very well prepared for the technical things, but the mental
Exactly.
challenge that you are going to face, we are not prepared for it. And then you enter thinking that we are going just to save animals, it's going to be beautiful and just bright lights, just happiness, and we experience a lot of other things. So my aim was, now how can I bring all my transferable skills from all these areas that I work into this profession to help people, right, to be more satisfied with the jobs, prevent and overcome burnout, compassion fatigue, moral distress, but also help people to stay in profession. Because what's happening now, that's a huge number, and the statistic and the numbers are very sad, that people are entering the profession 3 or 4 years after that, they are already deciding to quit because of the mental challenge, stress, anxiety, depression that goes
Yeah.
through. So if you want the new
Can I
generation
ask
of
Dr.
vets to
Giana a
stay in the
question?
profession, we need to give support in that area.
Do
And
you
that's
think that
why
perhaps
I decided to change
the
a bit
people going into
and go in
veterinary
the other
school
side to
should be
change
made more
and
aware
help
of
the
the
people who
demands of the
help
profession,
animals?
as more have a more
That's
realistic
good. This
expectation
is a
about
very
the
good
likely
opportunity
roles
for
that they'll
people to
play,
know
rather than this
that actually there is
idealistic
a
playing
vet
with puppies
who
for the rest of
understands
your life.
another vet
You think it would be a better
outside
approach,
of the technical.
or at least a approach? Yeah.
Yes, of course. Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's one of the discussion I'm having with colleagues and some universities, even from Australia, that we should be prepared. I think Murdoch University is one of the few in Australia that are starting to have a program. I'm actually going to give a talk to them in May, that they have a program to prepare the students exactly about that. It's not just about beautiful saving puppies all the time. What are the mental challenge that you're going to face, right? The reality on the ground that you need to be aware of. For sure, the vet schools and the veterinary associations play a role on that, and conversation like this, so new professional, new or young professionals enter the profession, but also the young ones deciding if they want to be a vet, they need to be prepared for that, for sure. A few things that I'm developing here in Singapore. One is a project called Vet Connect, like a support group specific for people working with animals, where in small groups is to talk about all the challenge and things, happening within the profession. All the technical things, there's enough support there, but really about the challenge, the mental stress, and all the things that usually don't talk about it. So that's one of the projects that I will be starting soon.
No, we didn't even have
Yeah,
electricity.
sure.
No, we
Early
were a long
on,
time ago.
prevention is better than
And
cure, right?
God.
So
nobody talked about it
capitalize
then.
on
It
that.
wasn't something that,
Thank you, Dr.
it was
Giana.
like Dr. Giana said,
Because we are
we
in
didn't
this
have a
topic,
name for it.
for Dr. Shane, you are the
And
senior.
so
You have been
people were
practicing for
stressed
so
all the
long.
time because I
Are
was a
you
single
not
practitioner
having
for many
any
years in
burnout?
Singapore,
And if you have,
working more
how do you
hours than
overcome?
there were in the
Because
day.
I mean, I'm not sure in your time, is it
Probably
being talked
after
about
about, I
having a
started my own
burnout or
practice in
compassion
89,
fatigue?
and after about 10
But
years,
as for you,
I'd
how do you
managed to
overcome
employ
if you
3 or
have this
4 other
problem?
people with me, and I said, that's enough. And I needed a break. And I'd been studying as well, and I was just overworked. And that was, I realised now in hindsight, it wasn't compassion fatigue, that was true burnout. That was, I just couldn't face going to work any longer. And so I just took some time off, and it was the best thing I ever did. And I took 3 or 4 years off, did other things, and then I started to come back to veterinary science, but I did it in a slightly different way. I didn't want to go back and spay dogs or vaccinate cats. I thought I'd try to do something a little bit different because it was a bit frustrating working in Singapore in those days. We couldn't access all the techniques and all the pharmaceuticals that we can these days.
Mhm.
And so I started to look at alternative therapies. So I got involved for a little while with acupuncture and with chiropractic and things like this. I didn't take them all that way. I did use them for a while, but at least it gave me something else to look at and another way of approaching the profession as an adjunct. And it helped with my other vets that I was working with as well, because they could refer to me some other cases for rehab or whatever it may have been. So it was sort of useful to take that step back for a few years, but a lot of veterinarians can't afford that luxury because they have to work, they have to earn money. But I owned the clinic, so I could pretty much do what I liked. So I would strongly advise anybody who feels like they've had enough, if they can, to take a break and try to rekindle their passion for the profession, and so that they can go back renewed, take some time off. And that could be 2 or 3 months only, and that might be enough. But it could be 2 or 3 years, so it depends on the individual. But try it, because if you don't, you'll just work yourself into the ground and you'll just come to an abrupt halt.
Yeah. Mm.
If I can point it out, something that Dr. Shane
Sure.
shared that's very important. People get confused with compassion fatigue, burnout, and moral distress, right? Where these terms are intertwined and they happen together in many cases, they are not exactly the same. So I just want to point out here for people to be aware of. Burnout is a common thing that happens in any profession. Doesn't matter what you're doing, it can happen, and usually just overexhaustion. The job has no meaning anymore, and it's a chronic event, so it takes a long time to happen.
Yeah.
But then when it happened, what Dr. Shane mentioned is very important because it's a chronic issue, it takes a long time for the person to recover. So just going away for a week off, it doesn't recover from burnout. It's a lifestyle change, a lot of change. So it's a long time that you need to really recover. Actually, the best name is empathy fatigue. It's more like after 1 or 2 events, is really related to observing, seeing, hearing people or animals going through a trauma or suffering. So it's called secondary traumatic stress because you are, as a second person, observing, hearing others going through suffering and trauma, and you develop symptoms that can similar with a post-traumatic stress disorder. But then 1 or 2 events of observing or seeing, hearing others suffering, you can develop empathy fatigue. Because of that, the recovery is quicker if spotted early.
Nice.
But many cases, both things happen together, and that's where the issues are. People think burnout, and so it's good to understand the difference, because then you can go for help in a more target way, and also the way you deal might be a bit different also.
Dr. Miguel, you have been traveling here and there. Are you experiencing this, what Dr. Shane and Dr. Giana is talking about, the burnout and compassion fatigue? Are you experiencing this thing?
I have to say that I'm Asia. So normally in Asia people, we work very hard and we sacrifice our life to to the education, to the goal of the life, to make my family proud of me. So at the young age, I study 8 o'clock until 4 at the evening, and then I have a tutoring 4 until the 10 at night every day when I was young until I got into the university. So I'm not sure that I have burnout or not. Some of the time of my life, my study GPA is very low. I don't know what happened on that time, but it's just low. So and then I crying every day. So I think that one is my mental problem also. But I didn't go into the human medicine, human mental medicine, and then I go into Canada. In Canada, we are very have a high human welfare. So we don't work overtime. We don't serious very much. I mean, it's serious, but we don't a lot of pressure. It's different from the Asia. Asia is like a lot of things on your shoulder all the time. In Canada, it's more relaxed, more hang out with friends, more enjoy the environment. So I feel better when I'm in Canada. I feel like I'm
I see.
happier in the life. I'm doing everything good. I mean, I can use my energy to do everything. So I think
If
that one can call something different. I think.
yeah,
Mm.
if I can mention something, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what we observe here, right? In Singapore, it's very common you ask someone how are you, and the answer is I'm busy. So
Mm.
that is the normal, right? Being busy all the time. And we have, especially here in Southeast Asia, I noticed that we have normalized being busy all the time. We've normalized not having time off, and you normalize not having breaks and just work. And because it has been normalized, then we think that's normal, right? But in Australia, it's more like Canada. It's more about lifestyle balance. People work less, but they are more productive. So that's the reality. And like you're saying, I'm happier, right? So when you mention about my GPA went down and then I was crying all the time, those are the symptoms that you don't realize that they are showing that something is not wrong, is not right? So you always have been high performance, and then from nowhere you went down. What's going on? There's some pressure and something happened. Doesn't mean that you have a mental health disease or disorder, serious one, but something is starting to happen that needs to be addressed. And that's what the work that I'm doing is right, really to help people to raise this awareness and understand that work all the time is not healthy. We need to have breaks. You need to socialize. You need to have a balance, or what I call more harmony between work
I wouldn't
and
recommend anybody
and,
become
and
like
life,
me.
personal
I'm
life is
sure
very
there's better
important
paths
because it's not
of doing
sustainable
that.
to be on the go
I
doing
think being a
things
vet,
all the
being a
time.
vet's one of
It's
those
just
really
humanly
unusual
impossible.
professions where you can do so many
To all
different
our
things. You can go
listeners,
from
please do not
clinical
work all the
practice,
time.
and
You
in
need
clinical
some break
practice we have
so that you can
so
become
many different
human
things we
again.
can do. And then you
Dr.
go to
Shane,
academia, or you can go to
as we
industry.
become
You can go
self-conscious
into
as
your
a
own
vet,
particular
what is our role in the
entrepreneurial
future as a vet?
offshoot
Should
in
everyone become like you,
pharmaceuticals or
like
in
practice
whatever it
in the
may be.
clinic
It's
and
an
take a break and then
enormous
change to become
option
a
that people
managerial
have
people?
here. And I
Or
think one of
should
the problems
everyone,
that
if they want
young
to stay in the
students and
clinic
young
3 days,
veterinary students have, they go there with this idea, I'm going to be a clinician. And not everybody's cut out for it. And being a clinician requires a certain non-academic skill set. And that's in effect relating to other people, being able to cope with the stress of relating to other people, because people can be tough work, and also dealing with animals, dealing with your colleagues in a collegial way, because sometimes they can drive you up the wall on occasions, and you can drive them up the wall. So it's something that not everybody is good at. We used to have people we'd prefer to be out the back of the clinic rather than out the front because they weren't so good interacting. And I'm sure that's the same in academia and everywhere else. So one of the things I think young vets or young veterinary students hopefully will have better awareness of these days is the options available to them in veterinary science and veterinary medicine. And they don't have to be just the James Herriot type clinician. There's a lot of other things they can do. Exactly. And don't be afraid to explore those other options. If you go 2 years into clinical practice, say, I'm not happy doing this, get out, do something else, look for an alternative. Don't work yourself into the ground like Dr. Giana was saying. Get out and do something else while you still have a love for the profession. There's no point burning your bridges and saying, I'm leaving and becoming a school teacher or a bank manager or whatever it may be. go and explore academia. I don't know, whatever it may be.
So, as a
But there are
conclusion, you
many
are
other
saying that
options
to
you can do.
all
But if
in
you
the
are not
future,
happy, there are people you can
veterinarian
speak
needs to
to.
know
I know
that
there
we have
are
options. We are not meant
organisations
to
in the
be
UK and
sitting all the
Australia.
time. That's
I
good.
think Dr.
Thank you.
Giana's talking about one. Maybe there's sort of be an informal one here in Singapore. Speak to other people and see what other ways you can cope with the stresses of that and look for alternatives. Don't just assume that being a clinician is the only reason you're becoming a vet.
Mhm. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Shen. I want to jump to Dr. Giana first, yeah? You have been an aquatic vet, and then you become a compassion fatigue professional right now. So is this the future that people should be seeing as a vet? Because like Dr. Shen said, we have options. And then right now,
Hmm.
we have more options like human connection in between vets. So
Yeah.
is our future is guaranteed to become a vet that has a very good mental state in the future?
So I wouldn't say that in the future vets will change career completely like I did, because we need vets in the profession. So that's what the work I'm doing. Like I want, empower and help the professions to be more resilient, to stay in the profession. But like Dr. Shane said, the range of jobs and kind of work a vet can do, and like he said, it's a rich degree that teach you so many skills in so many areas. But for some reason, even when you talk to people, right, a vet is always associated with dogs and cats, right? But the range of work that we can do as vets is so large, from farming animals, from inspection of products of food that comes from animals, academia. There's so many, and then the areas within the animals, different species, aquatic animals, for example. People didn't think that this was something, right, in the past. So like Dr. Shin said, is I think vets have to, people interested in the profession, they should explore, talk to different vets, do their own research, what the jobs are about. And if they have the opportunity to experience some of these as volunteers in different areas, I think is very important, because you see what the job is about. And like Dr. Sheng said, there's different skills for different things. If you are someone who doesn't like much studying, reading a lot, a bit tricky going academia and research, because you'll be studying and reading a lot, right? So is that kind of, even though I know vets need to study all the time, you never stop learning, but it's a different kind of level of studying and reading, right? So I think there's a different options for many people. It's just a matter of doing your homework, of going,
Yeah.
talk to people, researching and seeing the options there. But don't think that dogs and cats are the only options. There's so many much there. And actually we need, these days with the climate change and the idea of One Health, right, veterinarians play a key role in this area of connecting, right, environmental health, animals and everything. Public health is a big area for veterinarians that many times is not
Yeah.
explore or discuss about.
Yeah.
So yeah, the options are huge.
Dr. Miguel, Dr. Shane said, don't be afraid to explore. Dr. Jana said the same thing, don't be afraid to explore. Do you advise veterinarian in Southeast Asian region to make a big jump like you, to move to another country and learn a new thing? Do you advise everyone to become that in the future?
For the young veterinarian, I advise them to go to see the world, The veterinarian in Southeast Asia, veterinarian in US, in Canada, in Europe, even in Japan. I have experience in Japan as well. They are different, and they are very have their own good technology, good knowledge, and good medication that they use for helping the animal to provide the best treatment for the animal. So as much as you see the world, as much as you can grab, and then you can provide the best treatment for your patients. So my advice is like, if you love and you very inspiration to become the good veterinarian, I advise you to go to see the world and update the knowledge from update the knowledge is very easy. Just going to the PubMed and then there
Yeah.
are the new paper. So the new paper come with the new technology,
Expiring
new
or
medicine,
aspiring? I suppose you
and
mean
new
aspiring.
update of the
I'm an
treatment and
expiring vet, so
diagnosis.
I'm at the end of my career.
So if you really passionate and really love
Aspiring vets, I
to
think
help
we've covered a lot of
the
it already.
animal,
Is don't be afraid, get out there and
you
try
should to
things.
go
But if you find you're on the
and
wrong
help them.
path, change. Don't persist just for the heck of
Okay.
it because you have to please
Thank you, Dr.
your
Miguel. Thank you.
mentors or
Okay.
your family.
Before
You've got
we
one
wrap it
career.
up, because
Well,
we
so
are
I'll
at the
rephrase
end
that.
of
You could have
our
many careers,
podcast show,
but you have one
I want to
professional
ask
career to start
everyone
with as
and
veterinary
start with
science.
Dr. Shane.
Don't
What is your
commit
advice to
everything and then say,
aspiring
I
vet,
can't stand it
especially in
anymore,
Southeast Asia
and
region,
throwing it
who
away.
wants to
Look for
develop
other
their career,
alternatives
who
and
wants to
ways
make
out
a
of it. So
difference in their
if you're
life and
unhappy
also
or if
in
you
this
think
vet
I can do
field?
something else that may be better suited
Aspiring.
for myself, for
Yeah,
me,
sorry.
please go ahead and do that. So that's
I'm
number one.
sorry.
The next thing is don't be
Aspiring.
afraid. When I first came to this part of the world, I was the 10th vet in Singapore, and we had to do everything ourselves. There was no specialist here. If we didn't do it, it wasn't done. And so we did a lot of surgeries that in these days you just wouldn't do. They would be referred to specialists. But there are a lot of in-between ones that we did, which I think young veterinarians can still do, but they are a bit reluctant to attempt these. And a lot of things are referred to specialists. When I think if the young veterinarians could do some of these more complex, but not complicated, complex treatments and surgeries, they'll enjoy the profession more. They'd be more engaged with it. It would be a fuller and richer life that they would live. So don't be afraid to have a go at things. Network, get out and meet people. And it's, to be honest, get out and meet people who are not vets. When I came to Singapore, the only people I knew were vets and my clients. And when you're working all day with these people and then the only people you see when they come to your clinic is them, you need to see somebody else. You need to get out of yourself and do something different. So in my case, I went and played cricket. So just to meet other people and do something different. So get out and live a life that is beyond the bounds and the realms of your veterinary practice. So if you can do those three things, then I think you'll be able to have a good balanced life and you should be able to cope with the normal everyday stresses that veterinary careers throw at you and progress onwards.
I think every listener should take note what Dr. Shane is saying because it's very important to live a very balanced life and practice whatever Dr. Shane. Dr. Shane has a lot of experience in this field. Dr. Giana, any words to all aspiring vet out there who wants to survive
Yeah.
this veterinary field?
Yes, like Dr. Shane mentioned, few things there about life balance, life work harmony. But yeah, explore, do your research about what the job is about, what the different options are, as I mentioned before. But also, like it was mentioned earlier, explore what are the challenges on the mental side that you'll be facing but don't get scared for that, but just prepare yourself and build resilience to deal with it, because any job will have challenge, difficult, and problems. It's a matter of being better informed when you get into the profession, what you do with it. It's okay to talk about it, that's okay to seek for help if you need, and have this life balance where you have hobbies and things outside of work, because this is not just for the vets, right? Any jobs. But again, here in Southeast Asia, the cultural aspect that you just work, then you don't have this other life part of your life, and work is not just your life is not just work, right? So we need to have this balance. So have this balance, very important. And so explore this part of the job that are reality of the show, and also the expectations of the job. I think people are not prepared, both, for example, what expected that I'll get paid for the job, right? Sometimes you have a reality that's not really the real thing there, right? What's the difference of being employee and being the owner of a clinic? Or so explore those things, understand where you're getting into, I think that's the advice I would say, right? Do your own research before you get into it, and don't jump straight away in the job just because when we are 18, 20, when you're deciding to go to university, we are too young, if you think about, right? So, but in reality, you decide, oh, you have to do this forever. So like the Dr. Shane, if you later on you decide that the area you work is not where you want, it's okay to change. There's no pressure, right? So use your skill, transfer your skills for other areas as always use there. So yeah, those are the things that I'll share with the aspiring vets out there.
Thank you, Dr. Giana. And last but not least, our Dr. Miguel, to all the young vets. Any final words?
I really love to help animal. I really love to be a veterinarian. I always have passion. I always look at my first dog picture to inspire me every time that I down myself. So because I remember one thing, that my patient, dog, cat, must be lucky to have me as their doctor to take care of. And that's why I always update knowledge. I always continue study. Even I'm graduate for a long year, so I still study for the new technology and new knowledge to help with the animal. So for the young veterinarian, just never forget why are you here and what are you doing, and are you happy to doing that, and always remember why you become the veterinarian. What is the main thing that why you become the veterinarian today?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miguel. All right, that is all for our podcast today. I would like to thank
Okay,
Dr.
we're
Shane
done.
Ryan,
Thanks,
Dr.
guys.
Giana
Nice to
Gomes,
meet
and
you
Dr.
all.
Miguel
Maybe
for
we'll meet in
joining
person
us
one of these
on Vet
days.
Inside Podcast. I really hope to see all of you in this year's Singapore Vet Show 2024 if you are attending this 25th and 26th of October. Thank you so much for all of your insights. Thank you so much for all of your knowledge. I hope it can benefit to all our listeners, especially veterinarians who are listening right now in our YouTube or YouTube Music and also Apple Podcasts. Last but not least, again, thank you so much for all guests. Thank you for all listeners. This is Dr. Ilyas Hanafi. See you again on Vet Inside Podcast, brought to you by Singapore Vet Show 2024. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Ooh.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice to
Thank
meet
you,
you,
Dr. Shane.
everyone.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.